Hey everyone, welcome to the upcoming session for the 2022 SOFA Summit. I'm super excited because I get to film this video here in this session with Alex Evans, our sales manager here at MIP. Alex, how you doing today? Welcome.
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, we're excited to go over and dive into the map of Memphis, Tennessee, and the city as a whole. One of our big goals here at the SOFA Summit is you're 1,000 miles away. How can we bring the city of Memphis to you? So we'll have a lot of content in the field, but we also have this fun video where we get to go over all the neighborhoods. Where's the good places to invest? Where are the major employers? And all the fun things surrounding that. So let's dive in here. From a high level perspective, Memphis, Tennessee is very centrally located. That makes it very desirable for industrial logistic companies to be centered here because you can put packages on a train, put packages on a truck, and reach more people in overnight than you can anywhere else in the entire continental USA. So one of the big changes, paradigm shifts, I mean, it's been happening for a long time with the rise of FedEx and the rise of Amazon is I'm just going to sit at home. I'm going to click buy on my Amazon app and I'm going to buy something. It's going to show up at my house that day or that next day. And if you're a part of that culture, which a lot of people are, that is going to benefit the Memphis economy. So we are that blue collar, hard working town that is the distribution center for North America. So when you think shipping packages, when you think, how do I get goods from the grocery store to the actual, to the end store, that's going to run through the city of Memphis, Tennessee. When you continue to zoom out, we're also centrally located. And what helps about that, we have a major lack of natural disasters because of our location. You got to think, if we're farther north, you would be above the snow belt, the freezing belt, essentially. And I'm from Chicago, Illinois, originally in Pennsylvania, and we have feet of snow for many months out of in a row. And down here in Memphis, Tennessee, it may snow once or twice all year round, and it'll be a light dusting, and it won't even stick to the actual ground. And if it does stick, it's a very comical thing. We don't even have winter jackets here. So put your real estate investor cap on. How does that help? Well, the way that that'll actually benefit us as real estate investors is you don't have to worry about your tenant slipping on the driveway and having a lawsuit because you didn't shovel that snow. Or you don't have to even pay someone to remove the snow because there's no snow to remove, so it's less expensive. And then also you're less likely to have issues with the roof and roof leaks when things freeze, contract and expand. That could cause breaks in the seals. And then also with the plumbing lines, just not as big of a risk. And that's the whole goal when investing in rental properties is how to reduce your risk. So that's nice from the snow or lack of snow perspective. And then let's go on down south. If you invest in Texas or down on the Gulf side in Florida, well, you have hurricanes. And that means you're going to have flood insurance. And flood insurance is a no-no. Don't recommend buying rental properties if you are required to buy flood insurance because it's very, very expensive. And that'll just kill your cash flow. And that's just an added risk. So that's not something you have to worry about here in Memphis. None of our houses are in flood zones that require flood insurance. That is all things that we analyze on the front end during our due diligence process, and just one less risk that you have to actually take. Another one is Tornado Alley, right? You have Tornado Alley way out to the west. Now, I will say, we are out of anything, it's not all rosy and dandelions. There are risks. And I would say that that's probably one of the bigger risk is having a tornado come through. And then we're not actually, I mean, it may be once a decade. I mean, Alex, you're here in Memphis. How many
Yeah.
times remember having an actual tornado touch down here in the city of Memphis?
Yeah, honestly, growing up here the whole time, really the only time we ever saw any problems with wind, it became like a straight line wind situation. So to my knowledge, it was never even a tornado or anything like that. I mean, and on tops of everything, Memphis, we get this nickname, the Bluff City. So on top of everything Mark talking about this weather and stuff, we actually sit on this big hill. And so the storms get to just dissipate really around the hill that we sit on top of, which growing up here kind of hurt us because we never got any snow days growing up in school or anything like that because it went all the way around us and met back up in Jackson. So most of the storms really do avoid us pretty much entirely.
Yeah, I mean, that's really great from a real estate investor standpoint. And if you
Yeah.
look at the map here on the west hand side, you have the Mississippi River. So the big question is, well, hey, when you get high rains, is it going to flood? Is my rental property going to flood? And one of the reasons no is that Memphis is on a hill. So where is the low point? Well, the low point is going to be over there out in the Arkansas type region. Hence, some of the best waterfowl and duck hunting in the entire United States of America. So if you're into that kind of thing, please talk to us. Brad Reedy, one of the owners, would love to chat about it. So it's some of the best in the world, but it's just not a worry. It's not something that if you get a turnkey from MIP, it's not something that you have to worry about, which is really nice as well. And then from a high winds perspective, so let's say you do have those high winds because a tornado is, miles away. Well, what's that worst case scenario look like? Well, hey, maybe a tree will fall down on your roof, and that's why you have homeowners insurance to help cover that cost. So it's more of a nuisance. It's something that we will help facilitate everything from A to Z. But either way, always good to know what are those risks that are associated when you're trying to choose an individual market. So diving now into the actual map of Memphis here, what I always like to say for investors is that if you just think from a high level perspective, where's the wealth? Are the $500,000, $1 million houses? Well, those are going to be out east and farther away from the downtown center core, which is over there on the river on the west hand side of this map. So if you want to think, hey, where's that $1 million house? Where are those types of areas? That's going to be areas like Germantown, which Germantown is the highest income per capita in the entire state of Tennessee. And it's an extremely affluent area. It's an area where you'll have a lot of banks, financial institutions, white collar jobs. And there's a ton of wealth in Memphis, Tennessee. And that is definitely one of the main core areas. Now, we put a big X through that area or dollar sign through that area because it's not a good place to invest as a rental property looking for passive income to achieve that financial freedom. And the only reason for that is because the prices are so high, your expenses will be greater than your rents. And that's the only reason it's considered a bad area that we don't recommend. We need to make sure that your rents can cover your expenses and you can have free cash flow. And you're not going to get that in the dollar sign type area of Germantown. You've got some other really nice areas, dollar sign areas that we like to call them, along this Poplar corridor. Poplar is the vein of wealth that runs through the city of Memphis. So if you want to go and stay here in Memphis and you want to go to a nice restaurant, well, find one surrounding Poplar. And if you look on the center of the map, you'll see two really awesome areas that are also dollar signs. One of them's High Point Terrace. High Point Terrace. These are really beautiful houses where the price per square foot, it's the highest price per square foot in the entire city of Memphis. So what people do there is they build and they add on extra square footage to the property because that'll drastically increase the value of the home. So just more really great areas that aren't good for investing, but are just really beautiful, to live. Great places to live. And then another one is going to be the Midtown area. That is more of an A-class area. There are some rentals for cash flow there in the Midtown area, which is really nice, but that's mainly a new construction and short-term rental type of place because the entry cost is really high. I'm talking houses for 300,000, 400,000, 500,000. That's really expensive here in the Memphis area and just not a good place for cash flow. So that's why it's not a place that we focus a lot on. Every once in a while, we can find some houses there. And it's great because that's where, on the weekends, that's the place to go to, Midtown. That's the place to go have dinner as well. go to coffee shops in the morning, yoga studios, awesome bars and restaurants, tons of live music. It's really fun, but not the best place as to be an investor. Um, then next up, you'll have actual downtown itself, the city core. The city core is also not a place that we recommend investing there because the houses that are close by are extremely old. And so we just put a big X through downtown. We're not investing in skyscrapers and big commercial properties here. We're focusing on single family residential type properties there. So we like to talk about Memphis, whether it's inside the loop versus out of the loop. And we will start with outside of the loop. And this loop here is the 240 highway loop. So we have an overbuilt interstate system, and that overbuilt interstate system is really great because we are the distribution center for North America. And so you can get from one side, from the north side of town to the south side of town in 20-25 minutes during traffic. So you do not have to worry. This is not Chicago. This is not Dallas. If you live on the north side of town, you can work on the south side of town and vice versa. So that's what makes it nice to know as an investor, is that all these major employers benefit all the neighborhoods of Memphis, Tennessee, not just the particular ones that they're in. So starting on the north side of town, you have this neighborhood called Fraser, which is 38127. Fraser is going to be a C class area. The difference between A, B, C, X, and dollar sign in the different neighborhoods is the dollar sign is it's too expensive to get cash flow. So that's why we don't recommend investing there. The A-class neighborhoods, those are going to be 90% or more homeowners, 10% or less renters. So really great neighborhoods that you can invest in. Those houses are around $200,000 from a price point to kind of give you an idea. And then we have more of the B-class areas, which is right around the average of Memphis, which is about half renters and half homeowners. And those houses are around $140,000, give or take. And then we have the C-class homes, which is going to be almost all renters, a ton of rental demand in those areas. Those houses are going to be around $110,000 here. And then we do go down to the X area, and X area stands for it's just a little bit too rough or too old to get good, consistent cash flow. So those X areas are going to be parts of North Memphis, just above downtown, and then parts of South Memphis, just south of downtown, just because it's just too old. It's a little bit too rough. Now, those areas are revitalizing and gentrifying. And I mean, if I was trying to focus on where's the next 50 years of Memphis going to be, well, those are the areas, that I would focus on. That's not really the strategy that we recommend, but if you really are that opportunistic long-term type investor, that could be a good play for you. One of the big reasons is you have in North Memphis, so we put an X through most of North Memphis, but there is a lot of new construction there, and that's where it's home to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. And that is one of the largest employers in the entire Memphis region, which is over 5,000 employees. And they are spending tons of money on their current infrastructure of and adding more buildings. They're doing a $9 billion expansion currently, which is just absolutely incredible to see for the actual market here, which is going to result in about 2,300 jobs, which is always important to know how many jobs is going to create. And so that's a great long-term solution for, Memphis, Tennessee. But right now that's located in an area that, we don't really recommend investing. So then
North Memphis up here, I mean, with what Mark is saying, this thing that St. Jude doing is it now is even going up to 12.9 billion. They saw such good growth and infrastructure placements in the first year that they're even developing even more money into this area. Along with, I don't even remember what it was, Mark, like $1.1 billion approval for the Pinch District up there. For a bunch of mixed use development coming in and everything like that from out of state investors. So it's an area that being from here we're excited to see come back. Maybe follow in the footsteps of Nashville a little bit in hopes of connecting Midtown and downtown a little bit as well too. So trying to bring a little more tourism to town as a bigger source of income is something that Memphis is definitely focusing on at this point.
Yeah, 100%. So if you're out there, Google the Pinch District development that's underway right now. That's going to be located in this North Memphis area. So that's also going to be really exciting to see. So back to it. All right, moving north. We're in Fraser. This is a neighborhood of Memphis, inside Memphis, Tennessee. You're going to be in Shelby County, and Fraser here, the zip code is 38127, C-class area. The major employer here is going to be Nike and Amazon. They're actually on the border between Fraser and the neighborhood to the right of it, which is going to be Raleigh. So Nike came in and they built their largest distribution center in the entire company. This is 49 football fields under roof. Just imagine 49 football fields. It's extremely high tech. It's a major employment driver for the area because there's 3,300 total employees that Nike actually has in the Memphis region. And just imagine there's 33 miles of conveyor belts in this one location there. So it's one of the top, it's the fifth largest distribution center in all of North America at 2.8 million square feet. And so that's one of the areas. Now, putting your investor cap on, we have a lot of tenants that say, hey, I got a job at Nike and I want to be able to live close by. So I want to live in Fraser. And the fun part about it is you can get an entry-level job at Nike and afford the rent for one of our single-family houses at Nike. So it's really nice that if you want to put in the hours, put in the time to work, you can afford the rentals and keep that, demand up from an investor standpoint. I mean, this is one of the few areas where we have actually had a waiting list on particular tenants, to where the tenants say, hey, I want your house in Fraser. Give me a call, because we ran out. Pretty powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And moving in just north of them, Amazon got to see what Nike did first. And so they were looking at the success they had of being able to distribute out of the middle of the country. And so they decided to bring in their $200 million investment to their advanced robotics lab. Just it's right next door. You really can't see it if you drive by it, just because of how big the Nike one is. But it's 855,000 square feet. So just 2 million square feet less. But they employed, at the end of 2021, Amazon employed 31,000 people here in Tennessee. And a lot of that is focused here in Memphis from the distribution side of it. So this advanced robotics lab, I know, put in at least 1,000 full-time jobs for the city of Memphis. So people living up in Fraser or in Raleigh, both had even more opportunity to move there. And so it's nice, like Mark said earlier, with the overbuilt infrastructure system, that even if you do live that far north, that if you want to go downtown for the night, I mean, it's a 10-minute drive from Fraser. There's nothing to it.
Definitely. Yeah. And speaking about Amazon, they've come into Memphis in a big way. I believe they've opened about 7 individual distribution centers throughout the city of Memphis and this northern Mississippi region, DeSoto County, that we'll dive into. We got a couple Amazon facilities here on the actual map. So they're here in a big way, which is to be expected. And it's exciting to see them just open up a new news article and it says, hey, Amazon's breaking ground on a new distribution center, creating a few hundred more jobs. Just love to hear that. So we're still up north. We're leaving Fraser. That's C-class area. Now, as we go east, that's going to move into Raleigh, which is now a B-class area. There's, B minus and B plus. The farther east you go is B plus. The farther west you go is more B minus. But as a whole, that is a B as in boy class area there. houses here, you can get a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house, something in the $140,000 $150,000 range, roughly. Nice brick homes built in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, which is always desirable. And one of the best parts about Raleigh being a B class area is that it borders the next zip code, which is Bartlett, which is an A class area. And one of the big strategies that we have is on the cusp of investing. How can you be not the worst house in the neighborhood, but how could you be a B class home investing right next door to an A class neighborhood, or vice versa? How could you be a C investing right next door to a B, meaning that that tenant could use the infrastructure of the higher end neighborhood if they want to go shopping, right? Or if they want to go to work, right? So the Raleigh, if you live in Raleigh, you can easily drive over there into Bartlett, which Bartlett as an A class neighborhood, that place is the true definition of middle class America, right?
No, yeah, I mean, absolutely. This is where I've lived my whole life. I was born and raised in Memphis and have lived up here ever since. So it's nice to see. And and right now in Memphis, the areas that are turning into dollar signs, really like Germantown and like Collierville, those kinds of places, is because of the school systems now. And so Bartlett is seeing just this huge revitalization with their Bartlett school system. So it's their own municipality now. That a ton of people are wanting to live in those areas. The rents have shot up because people that want to rent those areas want their kids to go to school there. And so it's been really fascinating to see how Raleigh's changed from Bartlett growing as well. So right next to on a road called Austin P or Jackson Avenue, as you go south of the interstate, they just built a new government municipality center right there with a big lake. And so they have a new library, police station, a new skate park. There's all kinds of new stuff. I mean, there's a new Starbucks there every time you turn around, a new bank as well. So seeing what's happened east of Austin P up there is just incredible. I mean, rents have rose, house values have gone up, and it's because people are having to go from Bartlett into Raleigh a little bit just to be able to obtain something that they can afford a little bit better. So we're still seeing good opportunities for rentals up in Bartlett. We just did a couple here recently, though, which was incredible to see, actually, in a neighborhood right down the road from me. So it's awesome to see. And places like Brother, there's still distribution out there. Brother is a huge company. They even have a street named after themselves on Brother Boulevard. It's a huge warehouse up in Bartlett as well, right next to the mall and everything like that. So Bartlett's a nice place where Mark said it exactly right, middle class, where even up there, I used to work in Midtown, and it was a 15-minute drive. So people that live up there work downtown and even like that too.
Definitely. Yeah, well said. I mean, Bartlett, I remember 5 years ago, A class area through and through, but now a lot of it is turning into a dollar sign area. I mean, we're not doing that many rentals in Bartlett because it's just the cash flow doesn't make much sense because it's appreciated so much and done so well because of the good school system. So now that if you put yourself as a tenant or a home buyer owner, if you wanted to be in Bartlett before, but now you can't afford it because it's appreciated so much. Well, where is the path of progression? Where are you going to go next? And that's that Eastern Raleigh type area that Alex was referencing. So it's really interesting to see how, that wealth and the money just flows down, and what that causes is just rent growth and, price appreciation as well, which is super exciting to see. So then moving out east, you'll see another area called Cordova. This is an A class area, very similar to Bartlett. A lot of new construction out here because there's a lot of developable land. We're currently building about 20 lots out here in Cordova. So, hey, fingers crossed, we'll have those available in the next couple of months to release. But we're talking $200,000-$300,000 houses. We're talking houses built 1990s or newer. These are where there's a lot of hedge funds in Memphis, and this is the kind of product they buy, but they don't buy for cash flow at all. They just want that appreciation. They just want that mortgage principal pay down. So it's a little bit of a different strategy. But if that is your strategy, to just buy really great new products that have very minimal, issues, this is the kind of type of area, to actually go to. And one of the reasons why it is so popular is you have the little horse up there. That's going to be one of the big malls that you have. So if you want to get all your retail shopping done, that's the place to go to, Wolf Chase Galleria. And then also down on the south side of Cordova is Shelby Farms Park. This is the largest park inside the city limits in the entire continental United States of America, which is really powerful. I mean, this is the place you got to talk to Rich, our marketing master here. I mean, he's there every single weekend. And it's just a really
Mhm.
great place to ride a bike. There's multiple lakes so you can get a kayak. Beautiful place to just relax and read a book. There's a couple of restaurants there as well. You can have a nice ice cream bar. There are a bunch of buffaloes there. That's pretty fun. And then there's a lot of, education there for farming. So how can they have sustainable farming through the universities? They'll use it as a testing facility. I mean, I think they're growing hemp there. I mean, they're doing a little bit, of everything at the park. So if you're ever in Memphis, you can drive through it. It's really fun to see. It's really pretty, beautiful dog park. Um, that's where we saw our little Aussie for the first time ever, and we didn't know they could make a mini Aussie. And then we found out that we saw one there at Shelby Farms, and a week later we bought a mini Aussie. So
There you go.
that's how we got our dog. But either way, a
Yeah.
beautiful, fun place to go to and spend some time. So then we're gonna go to this big, incredible development that's happened in Memphis, and this is off I-40. So I-40 is going to run to the east. If you want to go out to Nashville, we're only about 200 miles or 3 hours if you drive fast to get to Nashville. So it's really easy to get to. I mean, that's where I personally live. So I make that drive constantly. And about 30 minutes tour outside of the city of Memphis is Ford's Blue Oval project. Now, this is absolutely incredible. You guys got to Google Blue Oval City, Ford mega site. It is phenomenal for the city of Memphis, Tennessee, because number one, it is going to rely on our labor, and it is going to create roughly 5,800 new jobs that will benefit Memphis, Tennessee. Massive. This is the largest investment Ford has ever, I think, ever made in the history of their company. And it's also the largest investment in the state of Tennessee, I believe. And so because of that, I mean, this is going to be, it's a roughly a $6 billion project. And they're going to build the electric trucks, the electric F-150s, the electric batteries. So Memphis is going to be a major player for this new sustainable shift from ICE engines to electric cars. And they're even building a, what's it called, an applied technology college to as a
Yeah.
feeder program, because 5,800 people, that's a ton. And these are high paying quality jobs. So these are where they need to actually educate the current population base so then they can work at these advanced robotic facilities because at the end of the day, factory lines aren't like they were decades ago in China, tons of manual labor. I mean, these are advanced robotic systems that need these applied technology training. So super excited about that project. Do you know when they're supposed to be breaking ground or be done with it?
They bid out the jobs recently, like starting with like electricians and breaking ground and stuff like that for development. I don't know if they've announced yet the break ground date or not, but I know they started bidding the jobs out, so it should be pretty soon.
Yeah, super excited about that. I mean, they're going to pull a ton of our labor away. So, that'll always be a fun part, but that's the things that you guys don't have to worry about buying a turnkey, right? You don't have to worry about renovating that property because we do that for you. So that'll be a fun one to knock out. So then as we move south, we're going to go to an area called Collierville. It's a little bit similar to Germantown, also $/ signs. This is another really beautiful place to live, just classic suburbia. And it's not our favorite place to own rentals because you can't get any cash flow negative.
Yeah.
But nice place to live. That's for sure. So now moving, let's move all the way over here towards Hickory Hill. And Hickory Hill, which you'll be able to see there, that is an area that is just due east of the airport. The airport is going to be that whole area there on the south side. That is the busiest air cargo hub airport in the entire world. We just beat Hong Kong, China. So that thing is flying planes full of packages nonstop. And there's going to be, I mean, how many people actually work at the airport? There's I don't even know. There's thousands.
Yeah, it's a bunch. I mean, FedEx total employs 30,000 here in the city, and with it being so busy, I mean, with pilots and just general workers and stuff like that, it's probably a vast majority of that number works at the airport.
Yeah, for sure. So if from an investment standpoint, is where are the jobs, right? If you had to say where are the most jobs that our tenants are going to be working at, it's that airport right there. So that's why
Right.
some of our favorite places to invest are to the east, Hickory Hill, and to the west, North Haven, and then up north in that east Memphis area, just north of the actual airport there. So that just FedEx, I mean, we can dive into that now. I mean, FedEx is one of the reasons why, we're all here. They have their global headquarters, which is downtown, that they just opened up with roughly a $50 million investment. They just renovated it, which is really exciting to see. But FedEx is the largest employer in the entire state of Tennessee, and they have their corporate headquarters out to the east in Germantown, where they have multiple buildings, white collar type jobs. And then they have their super hub, which is at the actual airport there. So if you want to think jobs, 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 you think the airport, you think FedEx, you think Amazon. And that's what our tenants tell us. Hey, I got a job at FedEx. I work at the airport. I want to be close by. Let's move over to Hickory Hill to the east. So this whole Hickory Hill area, I mean, we know it extremely well. Jim Reedy, the founder and the CEO, of MIP and Reedy and Company, he used to live in this neighborhood back in the 80s. So he knows it that well. And we're still investing in the neighborhood to this day. We absolutely, love the area. It's going to be anywhere from a C plus all area on the northwest side of Hickory Hill. Then as you move east and down, you're going to move towards B and then B plus. And then as you move farther away, you hit the zip code 38141. It's another B plus area. Then it goes all the way down to Southwind. That's now an A class area where they're doing new developments. So the farther away you go from the city, the newer the houses, the larger the houses, the more expensive, the less cash flow, but the bigger the homes are as a whole. So then let's go to the other side of the airport here. On the west-hand side, you have Whitehaven, Tennessee. And Whitehaven is famous for Elvis Presley. Hope y'all watched the new movie Elvis, and you got Graceland there. Love the marketing for the city of Memphis, Tennessee. But it's the second most visited private residence in the entire United States of America. And it's, if you come to Memphis, you gotta see it. It is, they've talk about the actual development that they just built for Graceland there.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, right next door, right across, and even a little bit further down the street, a huge hotels. I mean, is what they're trying to put in. So I can't remember how many rooms it is or anything like that, but they just finished it. I think it was a year or so ago now, to try and bring more people into that area. I mean, there's stuff all over the place in Whitehaven. I mean, we have, a ton of multifamily units down there and houses we've done just because we've seen so many people want to visit that area. And so Graceland is specifically probably brings more people to Whitehaven than any other thing that would. I
For
mean, it's
sure.
incredible.
For sure. And then, so now we have, Graceland as that main driver to bring people to Whitehaven, but tenants love to live there because it's close to FedEx. So it's close to their work. They also
Yeah,
have a really incredible sports team, really exciting, really good football
yeah,
team. They're really great as well. So they have that great camaraderie. One of our teammates, Eric Hobbs, he's our head, one of our top buyers for these properties. He's from Whitehaven, Tennessee, so he knows the area extremely well. And people want to live there for their entire lives because it's got a really
yeah,
great
yeah,
sense of community. And then from a thinking forward, from a development standpoint, they are opening up a Hollywood style, Atlanta style movie film studio compound.
yeah.
You can Google this Whitehaven studio compound, and This has been approved to be built in Whitehaven. It's a $500 million project, $500 million. And they want to be able to make the next Star Wars, Marvel movie. They want to build or film the best of the best. It's going to be so large that they're going to actually be able to house the talent and the supporting staff. Everyone can stay there. And they're thinking this project is going to bring in about 500 to 1,000 jobs and be done in 2 years. So super exciting for the area of Whitehaven. And all that's going to do is increase the value and just increase the demand, across the board. So next up, we are going to now go into the loop. So we were just talking about the neighborhoods outside of the loop. Now we're going to focus inside of 240. This is where when people say, hey, Memphis is street by street, this is what they mean. If you invest outside the loop, no, it's multiple miles by multiple miles. It's neighborhoods that progress slowly, very easy to understand and invest. But where people get caught up and they get in trouble is they think they're investing in an A-class area called Midtown when they're really investing in North Memphis, because you can hit a driver and go from the 2, and you got to go over a freeway, but still. The difference in home values is 300 grand versus 50 grand. Right. So those are the things that we always recommend. If you're investing inside the loop, close to downtown, in that North Memphis, South Memphis, Midtown area, you can go from really nice A-class all the way down to X pretty quickly. But that's the only area where people are talking about street by street. Pretty much everything else is much more gradual. Like you have an area called Berclair. That's actually, man, I forgot about the most important one of all. You got the green little tree right there. So that's our office. That's where we're located. That's where the property, it's where everything is located right there. The reason the property management company is there, it's all in-house, 22,000 square foot compound, a little bit over 100 employees to pull this all off. And we're all there because it's centrally located. We can get through the interstate system to all the neighborhoods, which means all the houses. So we can quickly respond to tenant calls, and we can quickly, manage, but also so the tenants, if they need to drive to the office to pay rent in person, if they have to do that, we aren't hours and hours away. Then that neighborhood right there is called Berclair, 38122. It's also 38108. Highly recommend that area. It's anywhere from a C to a B plus area. We've built multiple new construction houses there. There's a little road called Summer Avenue, and Summer Avenue is going to be, it's the international district. So you can get all different types of incredible cuisines. They just built a new Chipotle. They built a new Chick-fil-A. What else are they building on Summer Avenue there? It's
they just announced right down the road next to the post office, a little ways down from us, they're building like a new international municipal center, like a diversification type center, and things like that too. So we're seeing a lot of and even closer to Midtown, they're starting to bring back, this is an area where my mom's from Memphis and was from here the whole time too. So this is a part of town that never really got touched when everything else did, coming out towards the office a little bit. And a lot of money's headed back towards that direction, with a lot of for businesses, cheaper rents at this point, than out this way. So people are able to go in and find someplace that might need to be a little bit fixed up. And so a lot of money and investment is being brought towards those areas as well right now. So it's really growing. Summer Avenue is incredible to see the growth over, even since I started working here a year ago. So it's incredible.
Amen. Amen. So we love Berclair, highly recommend it. It's really interesting. We have certain investors that only want A-class product, and they say, all right, I only want Bartlett, Cordova, the really expensive areas, and Berclair. And we absolutely, big proponents of it. It makes property management a dream, since tenants can walk to the office to pay rent.
Yeah, we're right across the street.
Exactly. So that makes it easy. And then the fun part about it is just south of Berclair is High Point Terrace, is dollar signs. So, you have that, ton of wealth, ton of money there if needed. And what we're seeing is people are getting priced out of High Point Terrace because it's too expensive, and they're moving north into Berclair as homeowners. So we're seeing, hey, I could sell a, a turnkey for $150,000, but a homeowner is going to pay 160, 170, 180 for that thing to be decked out and all granite and stainless steel appliances. So we're seeing a big revitalization in that neighborhood, and that's going to be an A-class neighborhood here in the future, when right now it's that C, B type space. So definitely something we recommend. Then as you go farther south in the circle, you'll see 38117 Colonial Acres. So that zip code runs north and south. If you're on the north side of Colonial Acres, those are $500,000 houses. Those are $1 million houses. So dollar sign area. But what we like is the south side of Colonial Acres, 38117. The majority of that is also a dollar sign. We sell houses to homeowners because there's no cash flow. You guys wouldn't want the home. It's an incredible area. We highly recommend it. We just need to make sure the numbers work out from a passive income standpoint. So normally the farther south you are, the more likely you are to acquire some good cash flow. And so that is another A-class area that we definitely, recommend there for you. So then that's on the expensive side. So then once again, the closer you get to the city, the lower the price point, the more the cash flow is. And that's where you're going to see East Memphis, 38111. That's got the University of Memphis there. Alex, what are your thoughts about the University of Memphis, the Tigers?
No, yeah. I mean, it's awesome growing up. Of course, Memphis as a whole is a big. I mean, we like to consider ourselves like a blue chip basketball city. So, of course, growing up, you become a fan of them, and now the Grizzlies are bringing so many people towards the FedEx Forum, which was built specifically for basketball and for the concerts here in town. So, the university is huge. It's mainly a commuter school, so we see a lot of students having that live off campus. I mean, there's really not that many dorms that are on the university, and it's just simply because of the way the city is. Like we're saying the whole time, you can go live in Bartlett and then drive to school every morning. It's not that big of a deal. So even when my sister went here, she lived off campus, and we see a ton of the students that live off campus, and even a ton of the employees there. Whether it's a professor or anybody else that rents from us as well in those areas around town. Where on the eastern side, you get into Orange Mound a little bit, which is a nice part of town too, where we see it's a C, so you can see a little more cash flow that day one that you get that property. But it's highly desirable by our tenants, and you can see why. I mean, you're just north of the airport right there, and even down below it. I don't even think we mentioned it earlier, Mark, but the BNSFL railway that the guy Warren Buffett just bought a couple years ago employs a ton of people as well. So we're seeing people all around the university, whether they work there, FedEx, the railway system, that want to rent around that area.
Yeah, definitely. Well said. I mean, that BNSF railway, we can dive into that. So Warren Buffett bought it. It's one of the intermodal units. So that's where the trains come in. They carry all of their goods on a container ship. Then they have the big cranes, the Star Wars looking things that come down. That's where they came from in San Francisco. So they said, so then they get those and they move it on to a different railway line, and there's 7 class A railway lines. So the fun part, the reason why Warren Buffett bought this one, because you can put goods on a train in Florida, have it stop in Memphis, changes lines one time, and then boom, ship it out to the West Coast. So the fact that he's that bottleneck between the East Coast and the West Coast is one of the reasons why he bought it. And also a major proponent. It's powerful to be able to only change hands once and be able to reach both coasts. So another big economic driver. So super exciting. And that's what just adds to us being that distribution center for North America for sure. So then now let's see here. So we've been diving into that, pretty much wraps up Memphis as a whole. What you'll notice is that we talk about Mississippi and we talk about Arkansas, but all of these are technically still a part of the Metropolitan Statistical Area, the MSA of Memphis, Tennessee. So when we talk about Mississippi, when we talk about Arkansas, it's just a suburb of Memphis. We're not talking about a place 200 miles away with a different team and a different management company. It's all the same. It's just, if you look at us on a map, we're just right there at the corner of Tennessee. And so if you just hop over the state line, that's what you'll see down here to the south. You'll see this area called DeSoto County. So in Memphis, you have Shelby County, and to the south, you have DeSoto County. And DeSoto County, highly recommend it. Buy every property there. I mean, we're trying to buy apartments down there, and we're trying to gobble up whatever we can. Some of the reasons why we like it, it has really good schools. And just like what Alex was referencing with Bartlett as another A-class area, good schools, bring in good tenants, good families, and, just a better investment, long term. And so that's one of the main drivers to change states. So highly recommend that aspect of it. And then DeSoto County was one of the fastest growing counties in the entire United States of America for a while. So it just got incorporated in the 70s. So you'll see some houses, older houses are built in the 70s, right? That's not even that old to begin with. But then a lot of development is going on down there. So even the Chase Banks and the McDonald's, everything has that beautiful stone facade because it was all built in the last 10 years. So it's really highly recommend going down there and checking it out. And you have the 4 different towns. You have Olive Branch, which is that $A/$. You have South Haven, which is also that A as the majority of the houses there. And then you have Horn Lake, which that's normally that B type B plus. And then you have Walls, which is also similar, that, B+/A-. So as a whole, it's a quality area. I mean, I would recommend investing in any properties in DeSoto County there. The hardest part for investors is making sure you have enough, cash flow to fit your particular goals. Because from an appreciation standpoint, from when we built multiple houses down there, they've skyrocketed in value. We built a ton in Olive Branch, and they've done really well. And I mean, your fiance lives down here in Mississippi, right?
She does, yeah, right down in South Haven. So it's an area that we're seeing a place called Silo Square pop up now, right off the like Getwell and Goodman kind of area. So it's right across from a big amphitheater where a lot of country artists come and sing, as well as now they're putting up in some apartments and some new restaurants and shopping, some little boutique stuff like that. Just a lot of money being dumped into these areas where new developments popping up everywhere. I mean, they're building, you couldn't even probably count it, the amount of houses and land that they're developing right now. And it's not that bad. I mean, it's a to downtown Memphis. She's 20 minutes from work. So like Mark was saying, it's not 200 miles away or anything like that. It's a pretty quick drive where you get to see. It's just newer. If you want a newer property or anything like that, less problems, less maintenance, it's kind of the place to look. I mean, from a standpoint, the only disadvantages to Mississippi, kind of from an investment standpoint, is that they're going to have a state income taxes where Tennessee does not, and that's really the only difference that we see happening between Tennessee and Mississippi.
Exactly. Yeah, a good point. What's the difference, right? Should I invest in Mississippi versus Memphis in Tennessee? And that's the biggest one. There is income tax in Mississippi. Now, we are not CPAs. We are just real estate investors, but the depreciation that you get on these properties, the tax write-offs that you get on these properties, even as a passive investor, you don't need to be a real estate professional status, should be enough that you don't have to pay any income tax anyways, because you have enough write-offs. And if you don't, get a cost segregation study. It's $400. So you shouldn't have to pay taxes on the cash flow, whether it doesn't matter if there's Mississippi versus Tennessee, consult your CPA, every situation is, but you should not have to. And if you are, call us, we'll help. So that's a big one. It's also more landlord friendly. Haven't even talked about that. Tennessee as a whole is a very landlord friendly state, especially comparing it to where most of y'all are, is California, right? It's polar opposite of California. California, you can sign a piece of paper and stay in the property as a squatter for what feels like years. Well, here in Memphis, Tennessee, even, I mean, pre-COVID, we just follow contract law. If a tenant says they're going to pay rent and they can't pay rent, well, then the lease says they need to leave, so they need to leave. Right. And that process is something that should normally only take a couple of months. Now it has increased in time. So now it takes a little bit longer to get a court date just because of COVID, but we're only talking, 2, 3, 4 months is what we're seeing, really, really painful if it's really is that long. And so it's getting better, as we're filming this video. But either way, Mississippi is even more landlord friendly, just meaning that that process, that time is less. So you can go through the eviction, get the property vacant, so you can find a new paying tenant. Well, of course, we don't want to evict anyone. We want everyone to pay rent. I want 100% collections with our current tenants, right? That's what we want. And if the tenant runs into a hardship, whether they're actually in but only in Tennessee. So if they're in Tennessee and they run into an actual financial hardship, there is a program as of filming this. It's called 901 Homes. And as long as the tenant applies, essentially what they'll do, imagine the tenant hasn't paid rent for 2, 3 months because maybe they lost their job for whatever reason. Well, they can apply for this program. It will give you a grant that they don't have to return, and it will pay us as the property managers, which in turn pays you all their back rent and next month's rent. So they can get completely caught up, because most people, they lose their job, they get behind by a couple of months while they find a new job. Because let's be real, the majority of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So they just need help getting back to zero, right? To get their unpaid balance down to zero. And that's what this program was designed to do. And man, I mean, this thing's got enough money to last for multiple years. So
Yeah.
that's another great way that we can keep people in their homes, which is really important to us, but also make sure that our investors get paid. It's a double-edged sword for sure. So that is only in Tennessee, though, not in Mississippi. So that's a big difference.
Yeah.
What else is a difference? And then schools. The schools are significantly better in Mississippi. The schools in these B, C areas are poor. They are not very good in the Memphis area. Now, in the A class areas, you can start to get into some good schools, like in Bartlett, what he was talking about. But in these B, C class areas, don't even look at the schools. It's not even, a factor, because we have charter schools here. So our tenants can get a private school education, a great education. They just need to wear a uniform. There's no public transportation. So the actual, their parents have to drive them to school every single day. And then if they mess around and don't do a good job, well, then they will be forced to get kicked out and go to the public schools as punishment. So every school, every child, doesn't matter if they live in a X area, or an A area, has the opportunity to have a great education. And that's really important here in Memphis. All right. So then next up is to the west. You see over here in Arkansas. So you got the Mississippi River, major waterway. It's great. You've got a lot of boats coming up and down, multiple jobs utilizing that as a connector. But then you go over into an area called West Memphis, which is technically in Arkansas. And in one of the reasons why tenants, they would ask us, hey, do you have rentals here in West Memphis? Do you have rentals here in West Memphis? Because they live in West Memphis currently and they want to stay there. And so after hearing enough tenants saying, do you have rentals over there in Arkansas? Do you have rentals in Arkansas? We decided to start providing rentals and opened up our basically buy box to this West Memphis area. And so the tenants, they like it over there because it's a few $100s cheaper than Fraser, essentially. So if you're on the east side, on the Memphis side, you could be paying $9.95. But if you go over to the West Memphis side, you could pay $8.95, $7.95. So that's a big deal for a lot of people. And you hop on the bridge and boom, 5-10 minutes, you're downtown. So it's extremely easy to get access to the whole city. Now, as a red flag, you need to make sure that you're not in a flood zone that requires flood insurance. If you get a loan, the lender is going to do a flood. They're going to look into the flood certification. So that's going to be protected for you. But if you pay in cash, always double check and make sure it doesn't require flood insurance. So we would never buy anything that does require flood insurance. So we check that. But if you ever invest on your own, highly recommend that you double check that as well, because the cost of that flood insurance, as we talked about before, is going to cut out your cash flow. So also, why else would people want to live out there? Well, talk about the Southland development.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was there last weekend. It's incredible just to see how it's changed over recent times. And they just did a $300 million expansion that expanded their hotel and casino to 113,000 square feet. So currently, I mean, we have that area as well as Tunica in Mississippi, which is about 30 minutes past Walls that Mark was talking about, and it's the largest gaming floor in the area. And so it's bringing over just that new expansion alone for the hotel and the gaming brought in 400 new jobs just specifically to that area. So we're seeing a lot of people that will either like Mark's saying, they'll either live in Memphis and drive over there. They want to live maybe in the downtown or North Memphis area and drive over there. It's not too far, or that live in there, and it's bringing it. The expected revenue just from taxes for West Memphis and Arkansas as a whole is upwards of $14 million on this after this renovation, which is just incredible to see the revenue that'll be brought back and stuff starting to come up. I mean, West Memphis just started their first new home development over in that area in the last 40 years, and they broke ground on it like 2 weeks ago. So it's definitely an exciting area that's coming back. And like Mark was saying, not only are rents a little bit cheaper, you can find a property values are a little bit cheaper as well. So in
Mhm.
Fraser, if you're going to go get something that's 995 rent, you're looking at 110 to 120 on the buy side of it. And there in West Memphis, you're looking at 795 and 99.9, or even below that sometimes. And so the rent to value ratio seems that we can be a little bit more aggressive in those areas with getting cash flow day one. So it's a great area that we're seeing a lot of growth in right now.
Yeah, if you want cash flow, definitely keep Arkansas on the top of
Yeah.
your list there for sure. That's one of the big, benefits. One of the reasons why we decided to go there is because if cash flow is the number one goal, definitely keep Arkansas on the list there. Um, Man, I think what else do
I
we
think we
have?
got it.
What else is there? I mean, hopefully that helped. Hopefully you guys learned something. I mean, there's a lot more to Memphis, and the big one is that we would love for you guys to come visit us. Please
Yeah.
feel free to let us know, and we would love to give you a tour so you can see Memphis in person. We can show you around our campus. We can show you around the neighborhood so you can see what an A, B, and C class neighborhood really looks like and feels like. And then we can also have some fun, have some barbecue, have some beers, watch some sporting games, play some golf. Love that. Um,
Yeah.
but either way, please, we would love to just let you know that there is an open invitation to come visit us and come, visit this beautiful city here of Memphis, Tennessee. And hope you guys found some value and enjoyed this session.